The wind howled like a hungry beast. Snow flew in every direction. The night was dark. The planet's second sun had set hours ago, and now there was only cold. A terrible cold that froze skin, bone, and hope. In the middle of this icy wasteland, a small alien mother sat under a broken rock wall. Her body shook. Her skin, pale and dry, had turned blue from the cold. She held something close to her chest, her child. The child was small, thin, and weak. His eyes were half closed. His breath was slow. Too slow. She looked down at him, then at the tiny fire in front of her. It was dying. Just like them, she had already burned every thin pieces of wood, some broken cloth, and even her bag. Now only one thing remained. Her clothes. The mother looked down at her own body. She wore just one thin robe, already torn in many places. If she took it off, she would have nothing. But her child would live. Maybe. She whispered, "Forgive me, child." Then, slowly, she pulled the cloth off her body and wrapped it tightly around her son. She kissed his forehead and reached for the fire. She placed the last cloth, her only protection, on top of the small flames. The fire roared. For a moment, it gave heat. The child's little body moved, just a little. He made a soft sound. She smiled with tears in her eyes. Then the fire began to die again. And now she had nothing left. No food, no clothes, no strength, and soon, maybe no life. But she didn't cry. She only looked at her child and whispered, "You live, that's enough for me." The wind grew louder. Her body started to freeze. Her skin felt like glass. If the wind touched it, it would break. She pulled her child closer, trying to block the wind with her own body. But her arms had no strength left. They were weak and shaking. Still, she held on. Snow covered her back like a blanket. Her hair was frozen stiff. Her lips turned purple. Her fingers lost feeling, but she would not let go of her child. Her head dropped forward. Her breathing slowed. Her vision faded. Suddenly, a sound, crunch, crunch, footsteps in the snow. She didn't move at first. Maybe it was an animal. Maybe a soldier. Maybe worse. But then the steps stopped near her. She forced one eye open. A tall figure stood in front of her, holding a lamp. Wearing thick black clothes. A strange helmet covered his face. His breath made clouds in the cold air. A human. She gasped. "Don't take him," she whispered with cracked lips. "Take me." But not him. The human didn't answer. He looked down at her. Then slowly, without a word, he bent down. He took off his thick coat. She flinched. Was he going to take her? But no, he gently placed the warm coat over her. Her whole body. He wrapped it around her like a warm hug. She didn't understand. Was this a trick? Her eyes grew wide. Her body began to feel heat again. Her skin tingled as blood returned to her arms. He then looked at the child. His hand reached out carefully, checking the boy's forehead. "He's alive," the human said softly. His voice, it wasn't cold. It wasn't angry. It was kind. She stared at him. "Why?" He looked at her, and through his helmet, she saw human eyes. "Because no one else will," he said. She wanted to speak, but her mouth couldn't form words. She just held her child tighter. The man stood back up and looked around. He opened a pouch on his belt and pulled out a silver thermal blanket. He wrapped the child in it gently. He looked back at her. "I have shelter not far from here," he said. "I'll carry you both." "Don't fight me. Let me help." She blinked. Her pride screamed. Her fear roared. But her child needed this. She gave a small nod. The man bent down and picked her up her frozen, trembling body and then carefully lifted the child to. She was too tired to speak, too tired to think. But one thing was clear. She was no longer alone. For the first time in many nights, she felt hope. The snowstorm should have buried them. But instead, Something strange happened. In the middle of the icy wind, a shadow walked calmly through the storm. Not fast, not slow. Just steady, like it wasn't afraid of the cold at all. The alien mother couldn't believe what she saw. One moment there was only snow. The next, a tall figure stood before her, glowing softly under the stormlight. His helmet reflected the firelight. Steam came from his mouth as he breathed. Not a monster. Not a hunter, a human. And not just any human, a soldier. The kind most aliens feared. The kind trained for battle on death worlds. But this one didn't bring fear. He brought silence. And safety. She remembered little after that. Just the moment he picked her up. The moment her child made a small sound. And the deep, warm scent of his jacket. Now she was waking up. Her eyes blinked. Open. She wasn't under the broken wall anymore. She wasn't lying on cold stone. She was inside something. A shelter. Wood and metal. Heat filled the air. A soft fire crackled nearby. Her body rested on thick blankets. Her child lay beside her, breathing normally now, wrapped in a silver thermal sheet. She tried to move, but even that small effort hurt. Her arms and legs felt like stone. Her lips were dry. Her chest ached. Still, she was alive. And her son. He was alive too. Tears filled her eyes. Then she saw him, the human. He sat across the fire, sharpening a blade slowly. His jacket was off. He wore a simple shirt underneath, tight around his chest, showing the marks of past battles. Scars, long ones, deep ones. Some fresh, some old. She stared at him quietly. Why would someone like him help someone like her? He didn't look up, but he spoke gently. "You're safe here," he said. "You don't have to look so afraid." She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. She coughed. He stood and poured warm water into a metal cup, then walked over and handed it to her. "Small sips," he said. She took it, hands shaking. The water was the best thing she had tasted in years. After a moment, she whispered, "You're human." He smiled slightly. "Good guess. Why did you help us?" she asked. He paused, then looked at the child. "Because no one else would." She didn't trust him, not yet, but her child looked warm, breathing better, color returning to his skin. That meant more than any words. "I burned my clothes," she said slowly. "I thought I would die." He sat down beside the fire again. "I saw the smoke. That's how I found you," she nodded slowly. "You could have taken advantage. You didn't." He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "I lost a child once, on a planet not so different from this one." Her eyes softened. She understood that kind of pain. "You remind me of her," he said. "The way you protected your boy." She looked away. Emotions were heavy in her chest. "I'm Vena," she said quietly. "He's Kylo." The human gave a small nod. "Name's Grant, Sergeant Grant Walker." The fire crackled again. Silence filled the shelter. Then a sound outside. Crunch. Grant stood up instantly. His eyes sharpened. He moved to the door and listened. Vena's heart pounded. She pulled Kylo close. Grant pulled out his weapon, a plasma knife, and an old blaster. Quietly, he opened a small window and peeked outside. He didn't speak for a long second. Then he closed the window and turned around. "We may not be alone," he said. Her breath stopped. "What do you mean?" "I saw a mark." "In the snow," he said. "Heavy boot, not mine. Someone else came this way." Her blood turned cold. "Are they hunting me?" she asked. Grant looked serious. Maybe both of us now." She felt fear rise again, just when they were safe. "Another danger. What do we do?" she asked. Grant tightened the straps on his gear. "We wait, we listen. And if someone comes through that door," he looked at her directly, "I won't let anyone take you, or your son." She didn't know why, but she believed him. For the first time in her life, a human wasn't a threat. He was her shield. Vena dreamed of fire, not the kind that burned, but the kind that held. It wrapped around her like warm arms. In the dream, her child laughed beside a glowing flame, and someone stood behind her watching over them. When she opened her eyes, the dream was real. The small fire crackled inside the hidden shelter. Her son, Kalo, slept peacefully beside her, his tiny hands curled around the edge of the thermal blanket. His color had returned. He no longer shook and across the fire. The human sat. He was fixing something with his hands, a small broken heater, old and covered in scratches. His face was focused, calm, serious. A scar ran across his jaw, and his fingers were strong but gentle. Vena stared at him. This man, this human, had taken her in, covered her with his coat, given her fire, water, and warmth. Yet he had asked for nothing. She sat up slowly, still, wrapped in blankets. Her bones still ached, but her body no longer felt like ice. Her voice was soft. "You really saved us." The man didn't look up at first. Then he said, "You saved yourself first." "I just helped finish the job." Vena blinked. She wasn't used to kindness, not in this galaxy. Not from strangers, not since her kind was hunted. She hugged her knees and looked around. The shelter was made from pieces of metal, stone, and wood, clearly. "Built by someone with survival experience. You live here?" she asked. "For now," he replied. "Built this place 3 months ago, never planned on guests." She looked down at Kalo. "We're lucky you came." "No," he said, this time looking at her. "I'm lucky I came in time." Vena stared into the fire. It reminded her of the cloth she had burned. Her last piece. Her final gift to her son. She whispered, "I didn't want to die, but I would have if it meant he lived." Grant didn't answer. He just nodded, slowly, like he understood more than he said. Then he added quietly, "You remind me of someone." Vena tilted her head. "Who?" "My wife," he said. "She died during a raid. Defending our child. I wasn't there." Silence filled the shelter again. She didn't know what to say. His pain was like hers, sharp, hidden, but alive inside him. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't be," he replied. "Your son is still breathing. That's what matters." Kalo stirred in his sleep, then opened his eyes. His tiny hand reached out blindly. "Mama." She moved quickly to his side, holding his hand. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm here, little one." Grant smiled faintly at the scene. "He's strong," Vena nodded. "He's all I have." Then her expression changed. Her ears twitched. "Wait, the hunters. They were chasing us. They might have seen the smoke." Grant stood up immediately. He walked over to the door and pulled out a small scanner. He checked the screen. "Still nothing," he said. "But we should prepare. They'll come eventually." "Why are you doing this?" she asked, suddenly. "Why risk yourself for us? You don't even know our names." He looked at her. Calm, firm. "You're a mother. He's a child. That's all I need to know." She stared at him. In her world, kindness like this was rare. Then she said, "My name is Vena. His is Kalo." Grant nodded. "Welcome to my shelter, Vena and Kalo." Suddenly, boom. A loud noise outside. Something hit the trees. Metal? A drone? A weapon? Vena grabbed Kalo and backed away. Grant moved fast. He checked the scanner again. He cursed under his breath. "What is it?" she asked. He looked at her. His voice was calm, but serious. "They found us." Vena's eyes widened. "What do we do?" Grant grabbed his gear, tossed her a warm coat, and pointed to a hidden trapdoor near the back wall. "We survive," he said, "just like you did before." Asterisk, the metal cup fell from her hand. It hit the ground with a clang. And warm water spilled across the floor. Vena didn't even notice. She just stared at her fingers. They were shaking. Not from cold this time, but from fear. Outside, the storm had calmed, but danger was near. She had seen it before, how the silence before an attack felt too calm. Like a breath held too long. She wrapped her arms around Kalo, his small face pressed into her chest. His breath was soft, unaware. I can't do this again, she whispered to herself. But Grant heard her. The human was near the shelter entrance, checking his blaster, adjusting the small metal plate over his chest. You don't have to do it alone this time, he said. She looked at him. You don't understand, she replied. These men don't just chase. They hunt, for sport. For fun. They kill mothers like me slowly, just to hear the children scream. Grant didn't flinch. Instead, he walked over to her, knelt down, and gently touched her shoulder. You're right, he said. I don't understand everything you've been through, but I've fought things like them before. She shook her head. You don't have to fight for us. He gave a small smile. Too late for that. Kylo suddenly lifted his head. His sleepy eyes opened. Mama, where's fire? There's still fire, little one, she whispered, forcing a soft smile. We're safe. But her hands still trembled. She tried to hide it, but Grant saw. Without a word, he pulled something from his bag, a small square of chocolate. Earth chocolate. He broke it in two, gave one piece to Kylo, and quietly offered the other to her. She hesitated. What is it? Sweet. Energy. Trust, he said with a smirk. She took it. The taste was rich, strange, but warm. It melted in her mouth. It reminded her of childhood, of days before the war. Before running. Before burning her own clothes to keep her son alive. A memory she didn't want, but couldn't forget. The silence was broken by a soft beep from Grant's scanner. He stood instantly, checking it. Two signals, near, moving slowly. He looked out. Through the narrow side window. His voice lowered. They're here. Vena's throat tightened. Grant moved fast, placing a finger to his lips. Quiet. Stay low. Take him under the trap door. She obeyed, opening the hidden floor panel. A small space underneath. Cramped. Dark. Safe. Before she climbed in, she looked at Grant. You can hide too. He shook his head. If they find this place, I'll lead them away. You'll die, she whispered. He looked her in the eyes. Better me than you and him. Her eyes filled with tears. Why do you care so much? His answer was simple. Because someone once cared for me, and I failed them. I won't fail again. She crawled into the trapdoor with Kylo, pulling the panel closed above her. Darkness. Then silence. Only her son's breathing and her own heart pounding in her ears. Up above, heavy boots stepped into the shelter. Two alien voices, sharp, cold. Fire's still warm. Somebody's here, or was. A pause. What's that smell? Human. Then, thud a sound like a punch. Grant's voice answered calmly. Looking for someone? Vena covered Kylo's ears. She could hear it all, every word. Every movement. The aliens laughed. What's a human doing in our hunting zone? Feeding the wrong wolves, Grant replied. Another hit. A grunt, then silence. Her heart nearly stopped. Seconds passed. Long ones. Then, bang. Two loud blaster shots shook the shelter. Vena cried out softly, but kept still. She held Kylo tight. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Then. Nothing. She waited. 10 seconds. 30. A minute. Then the trapdoor opened slowly. And light poured. In Grant's face appeared bloody but alive. They're gone, he whispered. She pulled herself out with Kylo and looked at him in shock. You fought them alone? I had help, he said, showing her the small trap he set sharp wires. And a swinging metal plate. She smiled, tears in her eyes. Then she touched his bleeding arm. You're hurt. He looked down. Just a scratch. She shook her head. You could have died, he shrugged. So could you. Their eyes met in the dim light, not as human and alien, not as soldier and runaway, but as two parents, trying to protect the same little life. The smell of smoke still floated in the air. But it wasn't from a campfire. It was from the burning bodies of the 2 bounty hunters outside. Vena stood at the edge of the doorway, looking at the quiet snow beyond. Grant had dragged their lifeless bodies into the snowbank, covered them with cold dust, and lit them with a small flare. She didn't ask him why. She didn't need to. She knew what would happen if others found their frozen corpses. The storm might hide their tracks, but soon more would come, and next time they might not be so easy to stop. Inside the shelter, Callow played with a piece of rope, humming softly. He didn't understand what just happened. He thought they were safe, but Vena's gut said otherwise. Grant sat near the fire, cleaning the blood off his arm with a cloth. His face was still calm, but his eyes were sharp like a man who had been through too many battles to ever truly rest. She walked over, her voice low. "They weren't just following my trail," she said. "They came straight here." He didn't. "Look up." "I know. That means they were tracking me." Now he looked up. "No, Vena, they weren't tracking you." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Grant stood slowly, walked to a corner of the shelter, and pulled out a small metal box. He opened it. Inside was an old badge, a mark of war. A symbol with sharp wings and a human skull in the center. She gasped. "You were part of the Red Squad?" Grant nodded. "Once." Vena stepped back. "That squad destroyed half the refugee camps on Vera 9. They hunted my people." "I know," he said. "I left after that." Silence. Cold and heavy. Her eyes were full of emotion. Rage, confusion, pain. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to see the monster I used to be." She stared at him. "Then why save us now?" He looked directly at her. "Because I watched mothers scream while their children were taken. I watched soldiers laugh while burning tents full of the weak. I did nothing. That silence never left me." Her voice cracked. "So now you protect refugees because of guilt?" "No," he said. "I protect them because it's right. Because I failed once. And because I couldn't live with myself if I let it happen again." She looked at him for a long time. Then slowly she nodded. Not in forgiveness, but in understanding. Suddenly beep. The scanner on the wall lit up again. 4 red dots, moving fast. Grant cursed. "Another squad. Bigger." He looked at her. "They're not after you, Vena. They're after me. The deserter, the traitor. And now you're in the way." She clenched her fists. "Then we run together." "No," he said firmly. "I'll draw them off. You take Kalo and go the other way." She grabbed his arm. "No, I won't leave." "You." Grant's voice was steady. "If they catch me, they'll kill me. If they catch you with him, they'll do worse." Her voice rose. "You think I care? I already burned my body to keep him alive. You think I'll let the one man who helped us die alone in the snow?" Grant stared at her. Then, slowly, he smiled. "You're stubborn." She crossed her arms. "I'm a mother." He handed her a small device. "Signal beacon. I'll run east. They'll follow. When it's clear, head west. There's a human outpost 5 miles from here." She took the beacon and nodded. Then, without warning, she reached out and hugged him. It was brief, but real. "Come back," she whispered. "I'll try," he said. Outside, the storm began again. Grant stepped into the snow with his weapon and gear. His figure faded quickly into the white. Vena held Kalo close. This time, the one running into danger wasn't her, and she hated every second of it. The fire had gone out, but a different fire burned inside her now. Vena crouched low in the snow, her eyes locked on the distant lights flashing across the frozen ridge. That was where Grant had gone, where he had led the hunters, where he might already be dead. She clutched Kylo close against her chest, hiding behind a pile of broken stone. Her breath formed small clouds in the freezing air. But she didn't feel the cold anymore, not after what he had done for them, Not after how he looked at her and said, "You live." She had been weak once, running, begging, hiding. But now, she was something else. Something ancient. Something wild. A mother with nothing left to lose. She pressed a button on the small signal beacon. The green light blinked twice, then turned. Red. She had reversed the signal. If the hunters were tracking Grant, now they'd track her. She stood, placed Kalo in the hollow of a tree nearby, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Stay here. Mama's not afraid anymore." Then she turned toward the ridge and ran. Her feet cut through the snow like knives. Her bare legs ached, but she didn't stop. Her hands bled, but she didn't care. Her eyes burned with rage and fire. She moved like a ghost across the storm. Silent, sharp, ready. Up ahead. Movement. She dropped low, watching from behind a rock. 3 figures, armored, tall, laughing. One of them held something, a bloodied piece of black cloth. Grant's coat. Vena's chest tightened. Her breath stopped. Her heart didn't. She picked up a jagged bone from the frozen ground. The same one she had used once to cut roots for food. Now it would taste blood. She moved fast. The first hunter never saw her coming. She drove the bone into his throat. He dropped with a gurgling cry. The second turned, shouted too late. She tackled him, slammed his head into the ice, once, twice, until he stopped moving. The third raised his blaster, then hesitated. Wait. That's the mother. But she was already on him. By the end of it, 3 bodies lay in the snow. The blaster was in her hand now. Her hand shook again, but not from fear, from fury, from love, from the storm inside her heart. Weak voice came from behind a fallen tree. "Vena." Her head snapped around. She rushed forward and found him. Grant. Half buried under snow, his leg bleeding, his side burned. But alive. She dropped to her knees beside him. "You idiot," she whispered. He coughed. "I told you to run." She grinned through tears. "You should have known better." She pulled him up with shaking strength and helped him lean on her shoulder. He chuckled softly. "You're stronger than I thought," she smiled back. "You're lighter than you look." Behind them, Callow peeked from the tree. He saw his mother holding the human. He ran through the snow and hugged them both. And for the first time in days, there was no fear. Only warmth. Only family. Snowflakes were falling again. But this time, they didn't bring fear. They melted softly on Vena's skin as she walked through the cold forest. Grant limping beside her. Kalo wrapped warmly in her arms. There was no more running. No more hiding. And for the first time, no more silence between them. 3 days had passed since she killed the hunters. 3 days since she found Grant bleeding in the snow. She had dragged him through the frost, built fires from broken trees, and kept him awake through nights darker than any she had known. He had saved her first. Now it was her turn. Now they stood at the edge of a hill. Below them, glowing lights. Towers. Movement. The shape of a base. Half buried in snow. Vena squinted. "Is this the place?" Grant nodded. "Human outpost. Friendly. They'll take us in." She looked at him. "Even me?" He smiled. "Especially you." They walked slowly down the hill, 1 step at a time. Kalo looked up at Grant. "Are we safe now?" Grant bent down, winced from pain, and smiled. "Yeah, kid, you're safe, promise." The boy looked at Vena, then back at Grant. "Are you like my papa now?" Both adults froze. Vena's eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no words came. Grant blinked. Then he let out a slow breath. "If your mama's okay with it, yeah, I'd like to be." Kalo smiled and hugged him tight. Vena's heart broke and healed in the same moment. The gates of the outpost opened slowly. Human soldiers stepped out. Weapons ready, then lowered when they saw Grant. 1 step forward. "Sergeant Walker, thought you were dead." Grant gave a tired laugh. "Not yet. The soldier looked at Vena and the child. Who are they? He didn't even pause. They're mine, he said. They're family. Warm rooms, real food, clean water, medical care. Vena didn't know what peace felt like. Until that night she watched Kalo sleep in a real bed, curled in soft blankets. Then, she walked to the hallway, where Grant stood staring out a frosted window. You didn't have to say that, she whispered. About us. He looked at her. Yes, I did. She stepped closer. You know I'm not like you, not human. Not even wanted by your kind, he smiled. I'm not wanted by mine either. They both laughed softly, then silence, then warmth. She looked at him, eyes gentle. You still want to be part of this? I already am, he said, if you'll let me. She reached out and held his hand. It was rough, scarred, strong, but it was also warm, like the fire she once dreamed of. Like the future she never thought she'd have. The snow kept falling outside, but inside that room, there was only light, only warmth, only love.